everyone, and welcome back to another Cooking with Michael episode. I am delighted that you enjoy these. A lot of friends let me know in the previous Cooking with Michael, the Night Blossom and Violet Lemonade, that you really did enjoy it. So I'm glad to hear it, and today we're making something super special, something that the Disney parks themselves have shared with us, and I wanted to try it here at home. It's those Disney churros. Disney churros are iconic, the big churros that you can get walking down Magic Kingdom. We're going to be making smaller versions of the same churros, so the taste should be identical. If we get it right, we'll see. We're gonna try our best to get it right today. But these churros, I have very high hopes for today. Let's jump right in. Now we're starting it off with a 1 1/2 quart saucepan, or something close to it, as long as it can fit all the ingredients and keep track of the things that I'm putting in here to make sure that it will fit in your saucepan. And we're gonna combine the water, butter, salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon in the saucepan. Starting it off first with the cup of water right there in the saucepan. Now for the butter. 8 tablespoons of butter, and luckily butter has the little tablespoon marker right there on the side of the paper, but an entire stick of butter is 8 tablespoons, so go figure. Now from my experience cooking items here at home, it's best to actually cut up that butter just a little bit and put it in the saucepan just so it'll melt just a little bit easier, just to kind of help the process, putting it all together. Now I would imagine that you can probably melt the butter as well, that would be my guess, but it did not say melt the butter, so I am not melting or even softening the butter. I'm just cutting it up and putting it in the saucepan with the water. Now we need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I have this rock salt here, which I like a lot. You kind of crunch it up right there into this top right there, kind of take the top off, and there you go, you've got your salt right there. So we can grab a 1/4 teaspoon of salt for our recipe. Now I would imagine rock salt and regular salt probably not gonna matter too much. Dropping it all on the table, that's okay too, but we're adding it to the recipe. The recipe also calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now this is not all the cinnamon we're gonna be using in this recipe, but it is what we're using for this first part. So you've gotta divide up the cinnamon, but this first 1/4 teaspoon goes with this concoction. Now I've got the watery, buttery, cinnamony, salty butter in the saucepan here. I'm gonna go bring it to the stove and bring it to a rolling boil on medium heat. While our saucepan is heating up, we're gonna prep the flour. We're gonna need 1 1/4 cup of flour here. And the way I'm gonna level this off is by grabbing my knife, kind of using this to kind of level it off right there at the top. So I have exactly 1 1/4 cups of flour. Okay, there we go, and let's go look at the saucepan, see how we're doing. Now I'm keeping the lid on it as much as I can because I want it to come to a rolling boil as quickly as possible. Rolling boil means that the bubbles are coming up from the bottom layer to the surface really fast. Not just a little bubbles, a lot of bubbles really fast. So that's what we're looking for. Let's keep on stirring. Now while that's boiling away, I'm gonna grab what I'm going to use for my piping bag. I do not have a piping bag, so I'm gonna be using this plastic sandwich bag right here. And it calls for a large star tip, where you kind of use it as like this, and you kind of funnel everything into that star tip so it creates the perfect looking churro. I don't have a star tip, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut a star tip the best I can out of this plastic sandwich baggie. I feel like it's a really good trick. I've used it before when making things that are fried. Turns out really well. It's the shape that's a little bit different, just a little bit different, a little interesting shape rather than the perfect churro shape, but we don't care about the shape. Shape can be whatever shape it is. We're looking for that Magic Kingdom taste. All right, I'm doing my best to cut what I believe will come out to be a star shape. After all this is said and done, we'll find out together. As long as it comes out to kind of a tube shape, I think we're gonna be in really good shape right there. Might not be large enough. I will, we'll test it. It's good to start kind of smaller, then we'll get larger. So plastic baggie is my interim solution rather than a piping bag. Okay, let's take another look at our pan and take a look. It is at a rolling boil. Now we're gonna turn the temperature down to low and move on to the next step. The next step is to add flour to the saucepan. Let's go do it. Now we're gonna pour the flour in and start stirring aggressively right away. Start stirring real fast. You don't want it to sit for even a moment. Really aggressive. You wanna make sure you work all of the flour out of the dough. It's gotta be kneaded together. It's really hot, so stay aware of that. You don't want to be putting your hands in there, but mix it up, mix it up. Smells really good already, I can tell. Mixing, making sure that there's no flour bits left in the dough. That is a very important point. Sure enough, we have stirred it up and it looks great. You can already see the dough looks fantastic on the saucepan right there. It's important to kind of work out all of the flour. You want to make sure there is no flour bits left. as you're stirring it up, and then we're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes. You're gonna roll it up, make it to a little ball right there. So it just kind of balled up just like that, and let it sit for 5 minutes. While we're waiting, we're gonna crack the eggs and make sure there are no shells right there into one of these ramekins. There, you see it looks great. Fantastic. Has to be one at a time, so make sure either you have 3 ramekins or kind of take turns. Crack an egg, put it in, stir it up after 5 minutes, and then repeat the process 3 times for 3 eggs. Now we're gonna add 1 egg at a time, making sure that we mix it in fully before we add the next egg. Got 3 eggs total. Gonna mix them all up and then bring it back and let it rest. Take a look at that. It looks fantastic. A great looking dough for our churros. Now we're gonna let it sit just like that off of the heat and go to the next step. Now the next step is frying. What we're gonna be doing is adding oil to this larger saucepan. I do not have an official fryer, so I'm gonna be using oil in the saucepan. We're gonna add 1.5 cups of the canola oil right here to this saucepan, and it's a deeper pan right there, so if there's any bubbling, it should stay in the pan. Cross your fingers. And there's the 1/2 cup right there, so 1.5 cups of oil. We're gonna put it on the stove and bring it to medium heat, and then we're gonna start frying up our delicious smelling churros. Now while our oil is heating up, I'm going to move our dough, which is getting much cooler, which is great, and move it to this bowl right there, so it'll be easier to put into our plastic baggie so we can get ready to make those churros. You know what this smells like? Snickerdoodle cookies. If you've ever made Snickerdoodle cookies at home, it smells almost exactly like that. Wow. Now I'm gonna put a little bit of the dough right here into the plastic bag just to test that little tip that I made earlier. Oh, it's on this side, just like that. You gotta test it to make sure that it works. I'm gonna squeeze it tight. I'm gonna try pressing some of it out of there just like that. You can see it's a little bit too small. See that? A little bit on the small side right there. So I'm going to kind of reset here, put the dough back into the bowl, just like that, and cut a little bit of a larger opening right there at the end of the plastic bag. I'm looking for a little bit of a thicker churro. Take a look at that, not bad at all. You can see it's not exactly star-shaped, but it's the right diameter. I think it's the diameter that we're looking for. So I think we're gonna be able to work with this. We're gonna start frying them up momentarily. Now, if you have a thermometer, you can check the oils at 350 degrees. I do not have a thermometer, so I'm gonna be looking for it to be golden brown. Once they are, I'm going to remove them from the oil and let them dry on a little bit of a drying rack. Now we're gonna keep a close eye on them and start flipping them over a little bit, not agitating them too much because they do have to cook there. And we're looking for them to be a nice golden brown over and over again. We're gonna take a closer look, see where they get to, and sure enough, after a little bit of time and a lot of great smells in the kitchen, it definitely starts to look that golden brown. We're gonna start removing them now from the oil and put them on that cooling rack with the paper towels underneath ready to catch any excess oil there. Keeping that oil hot for the next batch. This is just our tester batch, just to start it off. And then after all that's said and done, we're gonna let them cool just a little bit and start making the sugar concoction that goes on top. Now to make that sugar topping, we're gonna add 1/2 cup of sugar to the 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, just like that. We're gonna mix it up and then sprinkle them on top of our churros, and then we're gonna be done. Now when I say done, I mean ready for a taste test. That's an important distinction there. You gotta be ready for the taste test. Doesn't mean we're done. May need to make some changes, you never know. Let's mix this up first, and then it's taste testing time. Our cinnamon sugar is just about ready. Let's sprinkle them on our churros and get to eating. Gonna sprinkle a little bit on each churro, turning them over just a tiny bit. Now you may wanna try this while the churros just come out of the oil. I'm gonna try that next because then they'll be a little bit stickier rather than the cinnamon sugar falling right off. But they're getting on there a little bit. Gonna roll them around in the cinnamon sugar as well. Try our best to coat them entirely. Now it's time to try them. And sure enough, they look fantastic, covered in cinnamon sugar right there. And I found an easier solution. Just put them all in the cinnamon sugar and then just mix up the bowl a little bit. It makes the whole process so much simpler. They don't quite look like churro bites because I'm missing that star tip on the piping bag, but they still look and smell delicious. But I'm gonna need help to try these very special churros at home. Sure enough, David is here to help me try these very special churros. David, the smell alone, what do you think?
Smells really, really good.
Are you excited?
I am excited.
Okay.
It's got a nice look to it. Again, I think the fragrance is really what makes you think it's gonna be a winner.
Okay, first pick, yours.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna try them at the same time. Cheers, bon appetit. Here we go. Oh my gosh, okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet and hear David's thoughts first, then I'm gonna give you my thoughts. Oh, I'm seeing smiles. I'm seeing some smiles here.
Really, really good flavor to the churros here. I think it's really, really well done in terms of some of the different food items, Disney kind of menu themed. This is pretty close to on the button there. I'm not sure, I feel like maybe it could be a little bit more done even in the dead center.
Right.
That's probably one of the biggest things on this one, but fantastic. Again, so similar in terms of that flavor. I feel like that shape's nice too. Maybe that makes it be a little bit more crunchy.
Right.
Whereas this causes some of that kind of softness in the middle. But really, really nice taste to it.
I believe these are extremely close to the churros you can get at Magic Kingdom. These are right on in terms of flavor. That piping bag, I think that star piping bag would really make a huge difference here, just because, as you said, like the outside would be more crisp. You get that center kind of like almost exposed, because you got like the circle and like the things on the outside with the star. That's what you want. If you want to try this recipe, it's worth that piping bag with that star tip. I would say absolutely, but is it worth doing?
Oh, yes. Even this way, if you don't have the piping bag, I would still enjoy those.
So would you eat a second one? Just because you want a second one. Not dieting. We're not thinking about diets. We're thinking, would you want a second one? Do you like the flavor enough for a second one? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Oh, he's actually grabbing one. Oh, no, maybe he's trying to watch his diet. There it goes. I sure hope you enjoyed making churros with us here at home. It was a tremendous amount of fun to be able to share it with you. There is not much I would change with this recipe except for that piping bag and the star tip. That is what you want to change. If you can do that, these are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Brings the Disney magic into your house. Thanks so much for sharing in the magic with us today. It was so much fun sharing it all with you. Until next time,
have a magical day.
And see you real soon.